Good morning, dear students. A warm welcome to all of you for our today's digital session for the subject Science and Technology Section A. In our previous session, we have completed with the discussion of textual exercise for chapter number 8, Metallurgy. Today, before starting with a new chapter, chapter number 9, Carbon Compounds, we will first discuss the activities of metallurgy which are remaining, and then we will start with the new topic for carbon compounds, how carbon is categorized as a versatile element. So let us first start with the two additional questions which we had discussed yesterday. Let us quickly have a glance at it and then we will start with the activities. The first additional question for chapter number 8 was, what is aqua regia? The answer you will get in your textbook on page number 96. The answer is in green colored block. Point number 1. Aqua regia is a highly corrosive and fuming liquid. It is one of the few reagents which can dissolve the noble metals like gold and platinum. Aqua regia is freshly prepared by mixing concentrated hydrochloric acid and concentrated nitric acid in the ratio 3:1. I hope all of you have got the answer on page number 96. The next additional question is, give any three properties of ionic compounds. Yesterday also I have told you in your textbook on page number 99, you have 5 properties which are given. Out of that 5, any 3 you can select, and the length of the points which is given in the textbook, not necessary that entire matter has to be included. You can reduce the length of the points. First point, page number 99, under the heading General Properties, the attractive force between the positively and negatively charged ions is strong. Therefore, the ionic compounds exist in solid state and are hard. Second, the ionic compounds are brittle and can be broken into pieces by applying pressure. 3. Melting and boiling points of ionic compounds are high. Apart from this, you have 4th and 5th point also in the textbook. That point also, if you want, you can mention over here. With this, we complete with the discussion of additional questions also for this chapter. Apart from this 2 additional questions, you know the different methods which are there, leaching or hydraulic separation. Each and every method should be prepared by you along with the diagrams. So that I have not included in the additional questions, but each and every method you have to prepare it in a very unique manner. Now, we start with the discussion of activities for this chapter. Hardly there are any activities. The first activity is on page number 98. Page number 98, use your brain power. In the center of the page, you can see, in the reaction between chlorine and HBr, a transformation of HBr into Br2 takes place. Can this transformation be called oxidation? Which is the oxidant that brings about this oxidation? So first here you have to write the chemical reaction. So I have written the reaction between chlorine and HBr. So chlorine plus 2HBr in the aqueous state forms 2HCl plus Br2. Now here you can see that the above transformation, yes, it can be called as an oxidation reaction because hydrobromic acid HBr, it loses hydrogen and chlorine acts as the oxidizing agent. It is the oxidant. In very simple words, you have to write the answer. Next activity you can see on page number 99, 100, 101, there are no activities. Page number 102, in the center of the page you have a very small activity. Can you recall? Page number 102, towards the bottom of the page you have, can you recall? What is the electronic definition of oxidation and reduction? Electronic definition you have studied in chapter number 3. Oxidation means losing electrons and reduction means gaining of electrons. This is the electronic definition. Now if you see page number 103, there are no activities to be discussed. Page number 104, you have towards the end of the page, can you tell? Page number 104, can you tell what are the moderately reactive metals? Right below that activity, the last paragraph of that page, very first line, you have the answer. The metals in the middle of the reactivity series such as iron, zinc, lead, copper are moderately reactive metals. Next question below that, in which form do the moderately reactive metals occur in nature? Now you know in the same paragraph they have given where you have completed marking this answer. After that you have a word usually. Don't start with the word usually. After that you have they occur in the form of their sulfide salts or carbonate. So that is the answer. They occur in the form of their sulfide salts or carbonate in nature. Very simple. And you all know we have studied that how their sulfide ores, they are strongly heated to transform them into oxides, or the carbonate ores, they are strongly heated in a limited supply of air to transform them into oxides. So whatever they occur in the form of sulfides or carbonates are converted into oxides. Next, last activity for this chapter is on page number 106. Why do silver articles turn blackish while copper vessels turn greenish on keeping in air for a long time? The activity is named as Think About It. Now here, whatever topics you have studied about corrosion, that you are going to apply, and the chemistry. So here now you know silver articles turn blackish or copper vessels turn greenish. Both are the results or effects of corrosion. Answer you will get in the textbook on page number 106 itself. You can see there are 4 points which are given on that page above the heading prevention of corrosion. 4 examples which we have discussed also during the explanation. In that 4 points, refer the third point. There lies your answer for this activity. On exposure of air, silver articles turn blackish after some time because of the layer of silver sulfide Ag2S formed by the reaction of silver with hydrogen sulfide in air. Now this I have marked in the textbook and given to you. Apart from this, you also have to add one line. This is an effect of corrosion. This has to be added. Now here I have not added on the slide because I am just giving you the answer in marking in the textbook. But what has to be added, that I am telling you verbally. Next is about the copper vessels. Same concept on page number 106. Second point you can refer and you can modify the point and there is your answer. Carbon dioxide in the moist air reacts with the surface of copper vessel. Copper loses its luster due to the formation of the greenish layer of copper carbonate CuCO3 on its surface. So both the answers you have in the textbook itself. Little bit of application work you have to do where you have to mention about the corrosion. Next on the same page you have, why do pure gold and platinum always glitter? Why do pure gold and platinum always glitter? Gold and platinum, you all know, they are noble metals Hence, they are least reactive and remain unaffected by air, water, etc. They occur in the free state in nature and hence they always glitter. So this is some logic which I have applied. I have applied the properties of metals, non-metals. You can write the answer in your own words also. Now all the activities I will not discuss over here, but if you refer the textbook, same on page number 106 towards the bottom you have, can you tell which measures would you suggest to stop the corrosion of metallic articles, or what is done to prevent the rusting of iron windows and iron doors. So whatever preventive measures you have studied yesterday, that you can apply over here and form the answer. For example, what you will do to prevent rusting of iron? You are going to apply a layer of paint or oil, or you have studied about galvanizing, you will apply a thin layer of zinc. So all this you have to apply and form the answers. So all these activities I have not covered. Doesn't mean you have to prepare, you have to prepare them for the board exam. Page number 107, if you see, you have an activity, use your brain power. Can we permanently prevent the rusting of an iron article by applying a layer of paint on its surface? No. You cannot permanently prevent, because as soon as the layer fades away or moves away, then the inner iron, it gets exposed to moisture and it starts rusting. So with this I declare that chapter number 8 is fully over in terms of explanation, discussion of textual exercise, all the chemical equations and also the activities are over. Now we start with the last lengthiest chapter of the syllabus, that is chapter number 9, carbon compounds. Though it is very lengthy and boring chapter from your side, but still as far as possible I have tried to make it short, sweet, and the important topics I am covering in my videos ahead. So each and every video you have to watch out if you have to prepare your base for carbon compounds. So let us begin with chapter number 9, carbon compounds. You are not new to this non-metal, that is carbon, because in the 9th standard you have studied under section A in chapter number 13, carbon an important element. So the higher levels of that chapter here you are going to study. I have told you why carbon is called as an important element last year. Most of the substances around you, whether foodstuffs, whether they are medicines or fuels, they contain carbon as the important element and hence it is called as an important element. Here what you can say, all the compounds having carbon as a constituent element are called organic compounds. If ahead in college you take organic chemistry, then this chapter forms the base for organic chemistry and hence it should be thoroughly understood by you. Now, all these compounds, as I have told you, which contain carbon, they are called organic compounds, and the compounds such as carbon dioxide, carbon monoxide, carbide salts, carbonate salts, they are exception. They are the inorganic compounds of carbon. Now, we are going to see the general properties of carbon compounds. Now, you have learned about the ionic compounds in chapter number 8, that is metallurgy. There you have seen the ionic compounds, they have high melting and boiling points and they conduct electricity in the molten and dissolved state. So what about this properties over here? Here the melting and boiling points of carbon compounds are found to be lower than 300 degrees Celsius, whereas for ionic compounds they were high. Intermolecular attractive forces are weak in carbon compounds and most of the carbon compounds are bad conductors of electricity. They do not allow current to pass through them. Here is a table displaying the melting and boiling points of some of the carbon compounds. no need of learning and all. You just go through for your extra knowledge. Then about carbon, I don't have to tell you much because last year we have studied about the outer structure of carbon in details, about its atomic number, about its valency, about its electronic configuration. So you know that the atomic number of carbon being 6, its electronic configuration is 2 electrons in the first shell, 4 electrons in the second shell. So automatically the number of valence electrons are 4, and here carbon has two different ways by which it can become stable. One is either by going near the noble gas helium and donating 4 electrons and becoming stable by attaining the electronic configuration of helium, or taking up 4 electrons and forming the electronic configuration of neon. Let us see which route carbon chooses to move ahead. Now, we will see the different routes. The first route of carbon to attain a noble gas configuration of helium. Now, if carbon wishes to attain the electronic configuration of this helium gas, that is by losing one after another all the 4 valence electrons. Helium's atomic number is 2. Carbon's electronic configuration is 2, 4. So if it has to move or become like helium, then it should have 2 electrons. And how can carbon do this? By losing one by one all the 4 valence electrons. What happens in this method? The net positive charge on the carbon atom, it goes on increasing during the loss of every electron, and hence to lose the next electron more energy is required, and the task of losing these electrons becomes more and more difficult. Moreover, the C4 plus cation that would ultimately form in this entire process, it would become unstable in spite of its noble gas configuration. So carbon atom does not take the first route to attain the noble gas configuration like that of helium. So the first route for carbon is cancelled. Let us see now which second route carbon tries out for. Helium is cancelled. So the next is that of neon. Neon's atomic number is 10. So electronic configuration is 2, 8. So if it has to attain the electronic configuration of neon, then it has to accept 4 electrons. So it can do this by accepting one by one the 4 electrons in the valence shell. Already 4 are there. 4 are taken up. So 4 plus 4, 8. So it can become like neon. Then what is the difficulty over here? Here in this process, the net negative charge on the carbon atom, it goes on increasing while accepting every new electron, and hence more energy is required for accepting the next electron by overcoming the increasing repulsive force, making here the work again more and more difficult, and hence the C4 minus anion. Now here why anion? Because electrons are taken up. Here why cation? Because electrons are being lost. So here this anion which will be formed, it will be unstable in spite of its noble gas configuration, and hence carbon atom decides not to take this route also. So what carbon finally decides it will attain its stability by sharing 4 electrons of the valence shell with 4 valence electrons of other atoms. See what carbon has decided. Neither to lose the 4 valence electron, neither to accept the 4 electrons in the outermost shell. Instead, it has decided to attain the configuration of neon by sharing 4 electrons of the valence shell with 4 valence electrons of other atoms. So in this method, the 2 atoms, they share valence electrons with each other, and the valence shells of both the atoms, they overlap and accommodate the shared electrons. And what happens over here, the carbon atom, it adopts this rule to attain a noble gas configuration and hence forms a new type of bond, that is covalent bond. Covalent bond. Now this term is not new for you. In the 9th standard you have studied what is covalent bond. The chemical bond which is formed by sharing of two valence electron between the two atoms is called a covalent bond, and it is represented by drawing an electron dot structure. Something new for you. Now in this method of electron dot structure, a circle is drawn around the atomic symbol, and each of the valence electrons, it is indicated by either a dot or a cross. The covalent bond which is formed between the atoms, it is indicated by showing the circles around the atomic symbols which are crossing each other. Also you can see one pair of shared electrons, it constitutes one covalent bond, because the shared electrons, it can also be shown, or this electron dot structure, it can also be drawn without showing the circle. So here one pair of shared electrons, it constitutes one covalent bond. It is also represented by a small line. Here you can see, here is the pair of shared electrons, it is constituting one covalent bond, and also it is represented by a single small line joining the symbols of the two atoms. Here it is the single bond between two atoms of element hydrogen. And the line structure is also called the structural formula for hydrogen or atoms of any other element. If you see in the textbook on page number 112, they have given the different examples of double bond and triple bond. In the case of oxygen, in the case of nitrogen. So each and every electron dot structure you have to practice. Now we start with the next topic. Why carbon is called a versatile element? Why carbon is called a versatile element? Now we have seen that carbon atoms, like some other atoms, it shares the valence electrons and forms covalent bonds. We also saw the structure of the simple carbon compound methane last year in chapter number 13. But this non-metal carbon, it is different than the other elements. The number of compounds which are formed from carbon is extremely large. So the number of elements which are formed from this non-metal carbon is extremely large. We have seen last year also that except for the objects which are formed from metals and glass or soil, all the other objects in the nature, they compose carbon, they are made up of carbon. So what you can say in short, we can say that the entire living kingdom is made from carbon. There are millions of molecules ranging from the small and simple methane, that is CH4, to the extremely big DNA molecule. They all are composed, they all are made from carbon. Not only that, the molecular masses of carbon compounds range high up to 10 raised to 12. See how important this element carbon is. What does this mean? This means that carbon atoms, they come together in a large number to form extremely big molecules. So what might be the cause of this different or unique property of carbon? It is due to the nature of the covalent bonds which are formed by this carbon, that it has the capacity to form a large number of compounds. Now let us see in short the different characteristics of carbon. The first is catenation power. What do you mean by this term catenation? Just now I have told you carbon has a unique ability to form strong covalent bonds with other carbon atoms, resulting in the formation of big molecules, and this formation of big molecules is called catenation. The carbon compounds, they contain open chains or closed chains of carbon atoms. Now, this two carbon atoms, they can be bonded together not only by one single bond but also by 1, 2 or 3 covalent bonds, and one is called as single, 2 double, and where 3 bonds are called, it is called as triple bond. And due to this capacity of carbon atoms to form multiple bonds as well as single bonds, the number of carbon compounds increases. You can see examples of some of the compounds: ethane, CH3, single bond CH3, ethene, CH2, double bond CH2, ethyne, CH, triple bond CH. Last year in the 9th standard, in chapter number 13, you have studied about saturated and unsaturated hydrocarbons. Here also in this chapter ahead you are going to see. So when there is a single bond, then you call it as saturated hydrocarbon. When there are double, triple, that is multiple bonds, such you call as unsaturated hydrocarbons. The third property is being tetravalent. Tetravalent means 4 valence electrons are there. So tetravalent, one carbon atom can form bonds with 4 other atoms that may be of either carbon or any other element. So this results in the formation of many compounds. For example, 5 different compounds are formed using one carbon atom and 2 monovalent elements, that is hydrogen and chlorine. Monovalent, why? Because they have valency 1. If you take the example of hydrogen, it has valency 1. Chlorine's electronic configuration is 287. So also its valency is 1. So see the different types of compounds: CH4, methane, CH3Cl, CH2Cl2, CHCl3, CCl4. So you can see n number of compounds are formed. So similarly, the carbon atoms, they form covalent bonds with atoms of different elements like oxygen, nitrogen, sulfur, halogens to form different types of carbon compounds. Not only that, one more characteristic which is exhibited by carbon is isomerism. Isomerism means compounds with identical molecular formula but different structure, they are called as isomers, and the property is called as isomerism. With this, we complete with the topic of why carbon is a versatile element, and we have seen the different characteristics of carbon. In our next session, I will be taking up one more additional session in this week, so we can move very smoothly with this chapter. We cannot hurry up. We have to divide this chapter in parts and we have to study. So in the next session, I will be taking up the topic of saturated and unsaturated hydrocarbons, straight chains, branch chains, and rings of carbon atoms. Then we will study about the functional groups and homologous series, and also we are going to study and see the rules for IUPAC naming for carbon compounds. So I request all of you to go through these topics and then only you attend the next session. Thank you, dear children.